What's up, YouTube? This is 82 and 0. Welcome back. So, today I want to talk about one of the most tragic events of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's life. Now, we all know Kareem. He came into the league in 1969 for the Milwaukee Bucks. He had an impressive rookie campaign, but it wasn't until his 70-71 season, his sophomore season, that he would win a championship. And he would announce that he had converted to Islam and he changed his name to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Now, I think everybody probably understands this, but there is a tragedy in his life that I don't think people realize. And what I'm talking about was, so when he became Muslim, you got to understand during the time, there were a lot of converts to the Nation of Islam. And I'll just explain it to any of my viewers who don't know. So Islam is different than Nation of Islam. So Islam is the religion, second largest religion in the world. Majority are either Sunni or Shia. I think like 90% are Sunni and like 8% are Shia. I could be wrong on those numbers. But the point is, there was an American formed, they call themselves branch of Islam. They called themselves the Nation of Islam. Now, how they differ from Orthodox Islam is, in Orthodox Islam, they believe the Prophet Muhammad to be the final messenger and that the message of Islam is for every race. But the Nation of Islam believes that a man named Farad Muhammad came in the form, they believe he's God incarnate, who came in the form of a man, which any Orthodox Muslim would reject because they don't believe that God can be a man. And this would be considered shirk, which is a great sin in Orthodox Islam. So, the Nation of Islam taught that this guy named Farad Muhammad brought the message, and only black people can be Muslim. So this is why they differ so much. Whereas Orthodox Islam, anybody can be a Muslim. And in the Nation of Islam, they believe that there was an evil scientist who created white people thousands of years ago to get, I think the name was Yaqub, they said. So it's just a strange Scientology type offshoot of Orthodox Islam. But the reason why I'm going so in depth is so I can explain this situation. I don't mean to bore anyone. So, throughout the 60s, many prominent black figures converted to the Nation of Islam. Although I think the vast majority would end up becoming just Sunni Muslims, like Muhammad Ali, who would reject racism after he became a Sunni Muslim, Malcolm X, who would reject racism after becoming a Sunni Muslim. But Kareem never embraced the Nation of Islam. He was an Orthodox Muslim, and he was trained under the Hanafi school of jurisprudence. It's not a sect, it's just a school of law. It'd be like the equivalent of a Christian saying, I'm a Presbyterian Protestant or a Baptist Protestant. So what happened was, when Kareem converted to Islam, he had a good friend who taught him everything he knew, pretty much. Became like his teacher. And his name was Hamas Abdul Khalis. And Hamas himself was I don't want to say he was originally a member of the Nation of Islam. I know he was affiliated with them, but he was a Orthodox Muslim. And he's the one that helped Kareem Abdul-Jabbar discover his name when he converted. And Hamas was originally a Catholic. Then he converted to Seventh-day Adventist. And then he would become a Sunni Muslim. So where did this beef come from? Well, the Nation of Islam was very big during this time, and they had a man called Elijah Muhammad, who he was still alive during this time, and he was the leader of the Nation of Islam. And he's considered in the Nation of Islam to be a final prophet. And the problem was Orthodox Muslims. I'm trying to think how to word this, because if there's anyone in the Nation of Islam watching, I don't want to offend people's religious beliefs. I'm just here to tell the facts. The reason why majority of Muslims condemned the Nation of Islam was for their outright, I don't want to say, I'll say innovations, changing what has been a religion for 1400 years and calling Elijah Muhammad a final prophet. These are bold claims. And so Hamas had written and sent over 50 letters calling the Nation of Islam leader Elijah Muhammad guilty of fooling people and deceiving them and robbing them of their money. And he believed that he was leading them to hell. These letters were mailed to ministers of all 50 mosques of the Nation of Islam sect that Kalas had infiltrated and which he had been a leader in the 1950s. The letters were also critical of Wallace D. Farad and that urged ministers to leave the sect. So obviously, if you're a Sunni Orthodox Muslim, you're going to know that somebody's making up stuff. And the Nation, they were pretty successful at swindling people. Elijah Muhammad would say stuff like, he's a perfect example for the people. He had this mindset, do what I say, not as I do, because he was having multiple affairs. He had even teenagers pregnant. He wasn't a very good guy. And at the time, the Nation of Islam looked at this as an outright, blasphemy. So they declared that Hamas and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had to go. And so after Kareem Abdul-Jabbar converted to Islam in 1970, he actually helped build a mosque. He donated $78,000 to build a mansion in Washington, D.C. Like a mansion for Kalas to live in, but also a masjid, a mosque, whatever you want to call it. And so what happened was, on January 12, 1973, and it's weird, several members of the Black Mafia. Now, it's weird, the Black Mafia, or a Philadelphia-based organization who they're involved in human trafficking, murder, armed robbery, gambling, but they call themselves Nation of Islam affiliates. So they call themselves Muslims, but they're involved in murder, robbery, gambling. Yeah, it doesn't make much sense, does it? Anyways, these affiliates traveled to Washington, D.C. and scouted the home. Then on January 17, 1973, Ronald Harvey, John Clark, James Price, John Griffin, Theodore Moody, William Christian, and Jerome Sinclair traveled in 2 vehicles from Philadelphia to Washington, D.C. One of the men claiming to be interested in purchasing literature about the Hanafi school of jurisprudence and arranged to come in the residence to purchase the literature. Two of the men to purchase the material. Now, Khalil's son, Dawood, his oldest son, was the one who answered the door. And he was talking with them at the door, and he's pretty much like, yeah. So he left the room to go get this literature that these guys claimed that they wanted. And when he came back, they said, this is a stick-up. The two men then let five or six additional people into the residence. Now, Dawood was the first one killed. He was taken into the third floor and shot. Abdul Noor was shot in a bedroom. Bibi Kalas, which was Hamas' wife, was forced to watch them drown her two children in the upstairs bathtub, and then she was taken into a basement where she was forced to watch them drown her 9-day-old granddaughter in the sink. Then Bibi was bound, gagged, and shot 8 times. Horrible. Amina Kalas, the daughter, was put in a closet and shot 3 times. She was told, you know your father wrote those letters, don't you? Don't you know you can't do anything like that? You can't criticize Elijah Muhammad. Unsure if he was dead, she was shot 2 more times, and the gun jammed. Amina survived the shooting. 7 Philadelphia black Muslims affiliated with the Nation of Islam were charged for the crime. Kareem AbdulJabbar was a pallbearer at the funeral for Kalas' children. Now, it's been speculated that Elijah Muhammad himself was involved with these killings. And it's been speculated that he was involved with Malcolm X's death. But in the trial, Price, age 23, Sinclair, age 22, also known as Jerome 5X, John Griffin, 28, also known as Omar Jamal, and John Clark, 31, Thomas Moody, age 20, and William Christian, age 29, were indicted. They all had extensive police records, and with the exception of Christian, they all had served prison sentences in the Holmesburg prison. Of the 6 defendants, 1 was acquitted when a key witness, Price, and unindicted a co-conspirator refused to testify. Price was not happy with the lifestyle afforded as a prosecutor witness. Price also thought that if he could get out of the witness protection program, he could reintegrate with his black Muslim brothers, and this would stop the violence. Then Minister Louis Farrakhan, on behalf of Elijah Muhammad, aired a threat on his radio broadcast, and I quote, "Let this be a warning to the opponents of Elijah Muhammad. Let this be a warning to those of you who would be used as an instrument of wicked government against our rise. Be careful, because when the government is tired of using you, they're going to dump you back into the laps of your people. And although Elijah Muhammad is a merciful man and will say, 'Come in and forgive you,' yet in the ranks of black folk today there are younger men and women rising up who have no forgiveness in them for traitors and stool pigeons. And they will execute you as soon as your identity is known. Be careful, because nothing shall prevent the rise of the Messiah, the Nation of Islam, and the black man over the world." Yeah, that's not cult at all. But anyways, this broadcast led Price to refuse to testify. He was later murdered in Holmesburg prison, where he was housed with other black Muslims. Another defendant was granted a retrial after the jury found him guilty, which ended in a mistrial because Amina Kalas, a survivor of the massacre and the daughter of Hanafi leader, refused to be cross-examined, as she had suffered irreplaceable physical trauma. And it was thought that it was highly probable that she would suffer psychiatric injury if she were to testify against the murderers. One of the men indicted, Ronald Harvey, was also indicted for the Camden, New Jersey murder of Major Coxon, a flamboyant black businessman and unsuccessful candidate for mayor of Camden. So, in response to this, Hamas, Abdul Khalis, I do want to mention before I get into this, I don't remember if it was Price. One of the men involved said that he if Kareem was there, they would have killed him too. So Kareem could have potentially died early in his career. Tragic. And in 1977, Hamas Abdul Khalis, he went on a revenge mission, if you could call it that, and he led an attack in Washington, D.C. It was called the 1977 Hanafi Siege. He said that the purpose of the siege was to bring attention to the murders of his wife, 2 children, and a 9-day-old grandchild, and the shooting of his daughter. The murder brought attention to the armed conflict between the Sunni Muslims and the Nation of Islam. Sunni Muslims believe the Nation of Islam changed the doctrines of Islam by excluding whites and accepting Elijah Muhammad as the last messenger. Sunnis believe that Islam is colorblind and that whites, and anyone else for that matter, can become Muslim. They also believe that Muhammad is the final messenger and Elijah Muhammad is a grifter. Well, you can't really fault Orthodox Muslims for telling the truth about their religion. You know, this cult can't just come up and make up stuff about other people's beliefs. And it shows you the way they act, they show their true colors. So it's good to see that you don't hear these stories anymore about these groups going after each other. But the thing is, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar could have potentially died in this. And that's crazy to think about. He could have potentially died in 1973. So this whole thing is tragic all the way around. These children who died and grandchild. So this really, another thing is, it really changed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's outlook, because he didn't want to be affiliated at all with Abdul Khalis after he sieged that Washington, D.C. hotel. So this caused Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to really re-examine himself and question what he believes and why he believes it. And I think this is kind of a forgotten story just because it's so tragic, people don't want to talk about it. So that's the story of the 1973 Hanafi Muslim massacre. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Thanks for watching.